Speak to Tom Burke. He's an environmentalist. He's a former government advisor on the environment. Good morning, Tom. Do you think that the government was pre-warned about this or not?
Well, I think it was very interesting that the Prime Minister said yesterday that we've got to expect more of these events. And I think there's no doubt that we've known these kind of weather events were coming for a long time. So there is a real question about whether our preparations have been adequate. We certainly haven't thought through far enough in advance what this means. For instance, we're still building houses on floodplains, which means that they are at high risk of being flooded in events like this.
When you say we're still building on floodplains, are we doing that right now, still?
Yes, still.
Do we have to do that?
Well, I think that's what the argument is. We don't have to do that. There are a lot of other opportunities, but they're not the ones the government seems keen on taking. You need the floodplains as a place in which you can let the water go when you have these extreme weather events. And the floodplain, the whole point of a floodplain is it absorbs that water, it slows it down. It means the water can flow downriver more slowly. But if you've built over your floodplains, you have two problems. One, there's nowhere else for water to go but rush further downstream even faster. And secondly, you flood the houses that you've built on the floodplains. So it's a really bad idea not to be thinking through much more carefully where we put our houses. That's certainly one of the things that we need to think about in the longer run.
Do you suspect that the government or those that were told, that advised the government about these floods, they actually knew it was going to be this bad, or the general sense is nobody could have predicted this?
I don't think you can predict the exact nature of a particular event, but what you do know, and what the government has been told about repeatedly, is that as the climate changes, as temperatures go up, then warm air holds more moisture. And when it lets it go all at once. And so you're going to get more frequent, more aggressive events like this. But exactly when each event will happen, I think, is as difficult to predict as any other bit of the weather. So you can't blame the government for not actually being ready for exactly what happened this time. You have to take a much more strategic approach to dealing with these issues.
Are you amazed that there are reports of a flood barrier? I think this is the one in York, which was opened because the actual barrier itself and the building which housed the mechanics for it was flooded. So they had to open it in case it wouldn't open later. I find that very, very strange to understand.
Well, all equipment from time to time goes wrong, and you can't predict everything, so I wouldn't focus very much on that one event. Obviously, it attracts attention, but I don't think that would have been done without there being good cause for it. So I wouldn't focus on that. I think, in a way, the really important thing now, apart from the strategic view of what we do in future, is to say, what do we do in the short term to help people? All those businesses that, an awful lot of small businesses don't have business continuity insurance. So there's a real problem about making sure that they can get back on their feet, as well as obviously helping householders. So there is a real money issue here in the very immediate future. And then there's a much sort of more important issue for most homeowners, which is how are they going to get insurance in the future? And the government has got a scheme to help them get insurance, but I think it's not going to be adequate to the kind of future we can expect.
And just a final point, Tom. Tom's an environmentalist. He's a former government advisor on the environment. Tom Burke is with me. Tom, do you believe that climate change is responsible for all this?
It's part of the responsibility for it, for the reason I said it. You've got these storms coming over water that's warmer than it used to be, and it gets more water gets picked up as those storms come through and gets dumped on us. Now, the reason the water is warmer and the reason the air is warmer is because of a changing climate. We're about 1 degree above where we were in pre-industrial times. So that's a significant difference. The thing people need to worry about is, at the moment, we're going to go on, our temperatures are going to go on going up. So we're going to see more of these events.
There's going to be more flooding, you're saying?
There will be more extreme weather events of all kinds. It's not just floods. You look at what's happening in other parts of the world. You've got wildfires in Australia that are destroying people's houses. You had the same going on in California. So you have floods, you have mudslides, avalanches, which again are caused by rain very often. So you've got a whole lot of different extreme weather events. You've got a drought going on, which has gone on for 4 years in California. These are exactly what scientists have been telling us were going to happen if we don't manage to control climate change.
Thank you, Tom. Tom Burke, environmentalist, former government advisor on the environment. One